You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
6 out of their last 7 for the Wolves. Final score tonight versus the Spurs, 106-92. Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves POSTCAST episode right here, Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Your team every day. Another Lukey and Dookie night tonight, baby. Give him a follow at ADukeMN, NBA Insider for zone coverage, MN. Lots to get into tonight. One of Nas' best games of the year, I thought. Plus the Wolves defense, it just continues to dominate game after game. But first, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Game Time. Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, man, like I said, Wolves trying to make it 6 wins out of their last 7 coming into this one. Got off to a pretty solid start. Spurs, a lot of turnovers, some sloppy play. Almost looked like the Laker game early on in the first half. I want to say Spurs had 14 turnovers in the first half. Wolves go into halftime, 15-point lead. Spurs, kind of like the Lakers did, cleaned some things up. They chipped away, got to within 6 in the third quarter, but then, Wolves kind of call one timeout. Finch kind of rallies the troops, and they ended up kind of running away with it, thanks to, again, some more outstanding defense. J-Mac was fantastic again. We'll talk about that. Ant with 26, Nah with 17, and the Wolves moved to 14 and 11 now on the year. Just start like we always do, just your biggest A topics kind of to kick us off.
I mean, Nickeil's giving Nas a run for 6th man on this team
here.
I mean, I know it's kind of just an obligatory title, but Nickeil's been playing really good all year. I think he's been, unfortunately, kind of, square peg, round hole into that point guard role. Yeah. But, I mean, he's been phenomenal. I mean, good for him because he's going to get paid this summer, but he's been great. I think the other thing is just, again, if this is the Jaden McDaniels we're going to get, where he comes in, gets his first career double-double tonight, 4 of 10 shooting, you'd like to see a little bit better than that, but 2 for 2 from 3. I mean, if this is what Jaden's going to be able to come in, get you double-digit rebounds, get you really good looks on offense, and then if Nickeil is this good off the bench, I mean, the rotation's kind of officially getting to that 7-8. Yeah. Everyone's looking pretty well mark.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go to the chat here a little early in the show today. Our guy, Random Planet. I don't know whether to be hopeful or down on this team. Even in these last 2 wins, the Wolves somehow managed to look like some hot garbage a lot throughout the game. So let me ask you this. How much does a game like this kind of move the needle for you? Because, I asked you this kind of same question. I brought it up versus the Lakers last game. Okay, no LeBron for the Lakers. Lakers had 1 million turnovers, at least in the first half. Tough to have a bunch of great takeaways, even in the win. But this Spurs team, they lost to this Spurs team first, I want to say 4th, 5th game of the season, right? Yeah. This is a more young, energetic, much more scrappier team. Even though they're not a deep playoff type of team, they make you work for it more nights than not, right? So how much can we learn from a game like this? And, I guess kind of your 2 cents to Random Planets, kind of, positives, but some negatives in there as well. Some lulls throughout both these games as well.
The third quarter gave me Wolves vibes from a couple of years ago, right? Where it's, oh gosh, we're playing
Shouldn't
Detroit.
Even be here. Who are we? Why are we playing
We're
down
playing
to
Detroit, and it's a 2-possession game. This is obnoxious. What I'll say is, a couple of years ago against Detroit, when they were losing those kind of bottom-feeding games, they lost those games. They let it spiral. Yes. They let it get out of control. And, I think the thing that is impressive to me is the fourth quarter started. I think they went on a 10-2 run, really just by playing good defense and trusting the process, which they didn't do in the past. I think if there was something that we could sit there and go, this team, if this team's going to sputter out, they really do just fall into the hero ball thing quite a bit. Today it worked with Ant hitting that 3 and then hitting that mid-range shot, but those don't go in, and the Spurs make a a runner in transition, or Harrison Barnes hits another three in the fourth, then it could have gone sideways. But winning 6 out of 7, even if they're not the best opponents, they're still winning 6 out of 7, which years past we didn't see that.
For sure, 100%. I mean, how many layups did they miss tonight, too? How many close-range shots did even the big guys miss? Even Na, who, we'll do a little bit more of a deep dive here in a second. Random Planet calls out 3 of Rudy's kind of just in and out, got to have them, what's going on tonight kind of things. But I think it was Michael Grady during the broadcast. It's like the offense was bleeding a little bit. You want to stop the bleeding, get into some real kind of structure, right? And instead, to your point, it was a lot of hero ball. It was a lot of just pull up, quick shot. They're not going in. And that's when the Spurs in that third quarter really kind of closed the gap and took advantage of some, just maybe, what do you call that? Impatience? Maybe just an off night, so to speak, even though we've seen it more nights than not, unfortunately, early on this year. What kind of point the finger at exactly what needs to be fixed, if you're Coach Finch, I guess?
I mean, Rudy, I'm not as concerned with.
Sure.
Rudy's going to chunk some layups every once in a while, and he's going to have a turnover that makes everyone pull their hair out. It's just Rudy's far enough in his career where that's going to happen.
Is who he is. Yep.
Right. I think the thing that's coachable and the thing that can be fixed is the Ant hero ball kind of mentality. And it's not just Ant, it's Julius too. He gets into that phase. I also think off the bench, Nas kind of does that sometimes, where he just decides he's shooting it before the possession starts. And when he gets the ball, he shoots it. For Ant, it's just a young player thing where he needs to learn to trust his teammates more. He needs to learn the ball's going to come back to him. For Randall, I don't really have an answer because he's still so new here that, if you listen to the New York fans on Twitter, this is something that Randall's been doing his whole time there. And if you listen to Finch, this is, Randall trying to get himself going and he's trying to get into a rhythm. Either way, I do think some of that has hurt the team of just Ant doesn't seem to trust that ball's going to come back to him if he passes it on certain possessions. But hopefully that's just something that as they get more trust, he starts to believe again that, with 3 minutes left, he will touch the ball again.
For sure. Two questions, just kind of playing off what you just said, because I think you brought up a lot of great points. One, as far as Julius goes, we're 25 games in now, right? Just past the quarter mark of the season. How much more leash, I guess, so to speak, does he get, just in your opinion, not what you think they will do? And then part two, going back to Ann and that hero ball, how much of that is just kind of understanding the flow of the game at that point? Like, dude, wait a minute, hold on, let's slow down. We just need a bucket right now. And I know just pulling the trigger, boom, I got the shot, I got the touch more nights than not. I can get it back. But is it just like game reps, like pressure situations like that, and just being a young guy, to your point?
I think with Randall, I've been pretty consistent with my own opinion of, I think we got to give him 40 games.
Yeah.
I mean,
you
got to, this last week was the first time they were able to string practices together since training camp. And this upcoming week, they're going to, I think, have practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So they'll be able to string some together too. Randall, I'm just not sold off of him yet, I guess. I think if it's this way at the 40 game mark, then we have problems. With Ant, I think it's less about reps. And I think it's just, this is the first time with the Wolves that he has truly been the number one guy. There's no Karl Anthony Towns. Mike Conley isn't hitting those clutch shots as much this year. I think it's just Ant knows that he is the guy. And, growing up, he's probably always thought, when I'm the guy, I'm hitting these shots. And it just turns out it's a lot harder to hit shots.
Yeah, no, well said. Good breakdown there. Let's go back to Na. Again, I thought personally maybe his best game of the year. I mean, I'd have to go through and cherry pick game by game. But, dude, 17 points coming off the bench, 24 minutes, second highest scorer on the team, right? Over, a red-hot J-Mac, Rudy. I mean, Julius Randle had 20, 21 last night. So second highest score on the team. 3 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals. I mean, he was everywhere tonight. Just break his game down a little bit more in depth and what that does, I guess, for the Wolves when he's playing like that, when he's playing such a well-rounded game with the defense and the scoring. Like, how much does that move the needle for this team? I feel like we just had the same conversation about J-Mac versus the Lakers, right? Just 2 nights ago. But same question, this time. What do you think?
I mean, Nickeil's one of those guys that, like, I'm going to full disclosure. I love him as, like, a person. Anyone who doesn't follow me on Twitter, I posted quite a few just, like, breakdowns on, like, how to be an adult and, like, be in the NBA. And he's just a really good dude. So I'm rooting for him. I have a rooting interest in him as a person. That being said, I mean, if he's able to do this consistently, like he did last season in the playoffs, like he did his first year in the playoffs, he can bring this team to a different level. Because then if Jaden's having an off night, you have Nickeil. If Mike's having an off night, you have Nickeil. If Randall's having an off night and Jaden's going to rebound like this, you have Nickeil. So it just gives you this extra security that if someone's not having a good night, you got a mid-20-year-old guy that's been around the block, understands that he's a role player in this league, and that you can just trust, which if you're Finch, knowing that you have that and Nas on the bench, 2 guys that you can just trust in a playoff series, it's a really big difference maker.
For sure. Again, Ant led the team second night in a row. He's led the team in scoring 26 points tonight. He looked sharp. He looked solid for the most part. Jaden McDaniels, again, a monster game versus the Lakers 2 nights ago. 12 points. How high is his stock now? I know maybe not the scoring. 12 points, still solid. You'll take that, especially when you think about Jaden last year offensively. I think we'll all take 12, 13 points every night from him. But just 2 games now, right? 2 games, small sample, but how high is his stock climbing right now? And again, like, how much does he elevate the team's ceiling, right, when J-Mac is playing like this?
I mean, the rebounding is the thing for me. I mean, I think we
so
talked
many.
about it.
I don't want to interrupt
Lakers
you.
game.
There was so many box scores last year when I would look J-Mac, right? J-Mac. You can see how long the dude is, right? And it'd be like two boards, 1 board. What is it? You gotta try not to get boards if you're J-Mac to only get 1 board a game. It was crazy. Continue.
And that's why, like, he is the most unintentionally funny person ever. Because you ask him about it, and he's like, probably need to just rebound better. And it's like, yep. And then when he decides to do it, it's like, oh, so you just kind of decided you're going to do it. And again, if he can get you 10 boards, I mean, then you can start messing around with him being a power forward and different lineups that you can do with him and Nas together without Randall or Rudy. It just brings another wrinkle, which this team is kind of proving over the last 7 games that they are going to be a playoff team. They're not going to be a play-in team. Now we got to start figuring out what in a playoff series, they've figured out how to slow us down. What do we do next? And even if McDaniels doesn't play a minute at the power forward in the regular season, his rebounding the last couple games at least has to be giving Finch okay, that's another adjustment we can make. Scoring, to me, the fact that he shot 10 shots tonight and they weren't necessarily all falling is just a big bonus to him too, because sometimes it really feels like he almost gets in his own head, which I can't speak for it. I'm not Jaden, but he just seems to hold the ball a split second too long, or he'll do these weird drives when he should have swung it just to try and get something in. I mean, he shot 10 times tonight. Even if he missed them all, that's an improvement.
No doubt, for sure. Yeah, encouraging signs for sure, J-Mac, these last 2 games. We'll see how it all unfolds, obviously, as the season continues. Last one real quick before we go to segment 2. All the starters plus minus. I mean, you win by, almost 20? Let's see, 16? All the starters plus minus. I know sometimes that's going to be skewed. It was less than 10. It was all positive, but less than 10. You look at Nas, and DiVincenzo. Just those 3 had a combined plus 70. So was that just like a one-night thing? Was something special cooking out there with those three specific, those three guys specifically coming off the bench tonight, or kind of got to take it with a grain of salt?
I mean, I think you take it as progress, because if this is Dante had a pretty solid game tonight too. I mean, if this is what your 8-man rotation is going to look like, where the bench can come in and kind of steal a game for you.
Right.
I mean, I'm looking Dante up 1 for 5 from 3 is tough, but other than that, I mean, was okay. But still, if this is the bench unit, your top 3 guys off the bench, it's at least something that you can sigh some relief on. Because if they didn't get that from Nickeil tonight, if Dante didn't bust on defense, they probably wouldn't have won this game. And then they're sitting there coming back to Minnesota with 4 days off, and you and me are having a much different conversation.
No, well said. Good breakdown there. A couple more good, interesting topics I want to get into. This defense, they haven't allowed under 95 points, over 95 points, I should say, in 6 of their last 7. Plus, I did want to ask you about Rob Dillingham as well. That's all coming up right after this.
Yeah.
Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA. And right now, FanDuel is giving you a chance at a huge return, $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed with your first $5 wager win. When you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can go check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Again, $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you win your first $5 bet. Go check it all out over at FanDuel.com. Get in on some NBA future action while you're there. Anthony Edwards MVP odds still sitting at 10-1. Feels like some good value. It's all sitting up over at FanDuel.com. Again, check it all out over at FanDuel.com and get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, Rob Dillingham, just, kind of same conversation that we had after the Laker game, just continuing to see the court a little bit more, at least compared to what we saw early on. 9 minutes, only 3 points, 2 assists, had a steal. I guess the needle's not going to move much from game to game, good or bad, but just a quick little snapshot. Like, how do you look? Stock up, stock down. Were you surprised? I know Random Planet said in here he was surprised Finch didn't start him in the fourth quarter. Were you surprised at all about that? But what are you seeing out there from Dillingham?
I'm surprised he didn't go back to him like he did in the Lakers game, where he gives him the last 2 in the third. That being said, I just pulled up Dante, and Dante had. So I've been really interested this season in assist percentages, and there's Dante out of the top 8 guys had the highest assist percentage on the team at 66.7%. That means that 2/3 of baskets when Dante was on the floor were getting assisted on. That shows ball movement. That shows understanding the system. And I think in nights like this, where the wheels were coming off in the third, Finch went to the guy that knows the system and has been moving the ball. I think, and I've been kind of chiming in on Twitter comments, which I know that's not what you're supposed to do in journalism, but I'm not technically a journalist yet.
Almost 2025, we can do that.
Right. We've moved past that. But like, I really do think that Finch, ownership, Tim Connolly, the team has really high hopes for Dillingham, and Dante for that matter, but for Dillingham especially, where they do think he is the future point guard of this team.
For sure.
I just think at this time, throwing Rob in there against a Wembanyama with Chris Paul likely trying to guard him, he probably could have cooked Chris Paul, and if he gets blocked 3 times by Wemby, is that something that's going to hurt his confidence?
Yeah.
I think they're being really safe with him, with trying to make sure he grows into the player they want him to. And hopefully, post All-Star break, he's getting 20 minutes instead of 9. That being said, the alley-oop dunk off the backboard to Minot was, you see the flashes with this guy every time he touches the ball.
You get
He's going to be something.
He's got that spark, man. He's got that burst, and he's got that spark. Kind of have that it factor that kind of either you have or you don't have sometimes, for sure. This defensive surge, the last handful of games, right? We kind of touched on it already, but 6 of their last 7 games allowing under 95 points. Their defensive net rating off the charts. Obviously, they won all 6 of those games as well. So what do you think is the biggest difference, I guess, in this defense from the beginning of the year to now? Like, what are they doing now that they weren't maybe those first 5, 10, 15 games of the year?
I've referenced it a few times of just Dante DiVincenzo after practice one day. And again, if it's on my Twitter, if anyone wants to listen to his full non-paraphrased clip, but they asked him just like what needs to change with this team to get their identity back. And he said, we just have to want to play defense. And that might have been as simple and honest as an answer as it gets, because this team looks like they want to play defense now. Jaden is busting all game. Rudy looks like as dominant as he's ever been. Ant's fighting around screens and not losing his guy on back cuts. And even Randall, who, you know, had his struggles earlier, is looking like a okay defensive player. And I think this team is also winning solves a lot of problems.
Yeah.
When you're winning games and you're getting all of the attentions for holding teams under 90 points.
Definitely
motivates you to play better defense and hold a team under 90 points.
For sure. And I will say sometimes it is that simple, right? Sometimes it is that simple. But doesn't that kind of annoy you a little bit? Like, what do you mean then? So you weren't trying before? Like, what happened the first 12 games? Because all of a sudden a switch just got flipped. And you're right, maybe a couple wins all of a sudden. It's like, okay, so many new pieces, right? They're still trying to mesh together. The chemistry's off a little bit, the timing, et cetera, haven't figured it out. Maybe they just needed a couple weeks under their belt. But I agree. Pros and cons to that answer. I'll just say that. I'll just put it like that. How about offensively? Yeah, go ahead. Oh,
Random Planet said it here too. I mean,
yeah,
we got to talk to Jaden after practice, and he quite literally admitted, like, I don't know what changed. I don't know what I did different. Yeah. Guess I just wanted to play defense. And it's infuriating, but also when you got Jaden and Ant who are in their early 20s, I didn't want to wake up for work some days either. So
I always point to that. You know, I'm a big NFL guy. I always point to that. I'm like, dude, this dude's like 22. Remember what you were doing when you were 22. Because when I was 22, it wasn't playing professional sports. I'll just tell you that. So there is a human element to these things sometimes that we got to take into equation as well. A couple minutes left. Let's talk about this Cat reunion game versus the Knicks Thursday night. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by BetterHelp. You know, when your schedule is packed with work projects and more, it's easy to let your priorities start to slip, even when we know what makes us happy. But when you feel like you got no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy, they're more important than ever. If you've been thinking about starting therapy, it's time to give BetterHelp a try. Entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your set schedule. So simple. All you got to do, you go fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched up with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Go visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon. You're getting 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, this is the game everybody circled on the calendars. The day that big blockbuster trade went down. Wolves versus the Knicks in Minnesota, in the backyard at the Target Center. This is kind of funny and ironic to me because obviously I cover the Vikings. We just had a big reunion, okay, at US Bank Stadium last Sunday, right? Kirk Cousins came back, and he, you know, I mean, to put it bluntly, he got his butt kicked, right? But just before we get into the nitty-gritty, right, top 2 or 3 storylines that you're just kind of most jacked up for, most keyed in on, I guess, for Wolves versus the Knicks.
Cat coming home is the big one. Yeah. I mean, I didn't have locker room and practice access and all that last season, so being able to kind of see how he interacts with people, and that for me is the big thing, is just Cat coming back, the fan reaction he gets. You know, he did get traded, but it wasn't by his, I mean, he didn't do it. He didn't demand a trade through the bad times, the good times, the Jimmy Butlers of it all. he was loyal to this team. So I'm excited to see what type of reaction he gets, because my guess is it's going to be pretty deafening. I mean, the other subplots are, we got two of their guys too. I mean, Dante was supposed to be on the Villanova 5 over there, and he got traded right before the season. And Randall, I think, has felt a certain way about how things have gone down in New York and is eager to play them too. So I think it'll be a good matchup. I think it'll be fun. Tibbs games are always low scoring in defense, so it'll be a rock fight.
Just the way Finchy wants them to, for sure. You know that. It's funny. I told my wife, I was like, she's like, are they going to boo Kirk Cousins? Are they going to cheer? I'm like, Minnesota nice. They're going to cheer for him. Like, they'll wuss out. Like, they'll say they'll boo, and then they'll wuss out when it comes down to it. In the moment, they'll cheer for him. Apparently, there was a lot of boo birds going on for Kirk Cousins. Eventually, after we won by 21 points, they gave him a little round of applause. But I'm assuming the same. I'm assuming they will cheer Cat. I have really no evidence to, point me in any other direction. But, I think you brought up a great point, though, too. Like, we got two of their guys, too. So, like, what's the human element as far as everyone on the team seeing guys, like not just the teammates, but the coaches, right? The medical crew, the GMs, all these guys, right? People with the season tickets in the first row. There is a human element to this. Yeah. And now you got Tibbs and Cat coming back to Minnesota at the Target Center. And then to your point, Randall, DiVincenzo seeing their old teammates do. Like, how much does that ramp up things, that dynamic, knowing that it's still just one regular season game at the end of the day, though, too?
I think it ramps it up a little bit. Okay. I mean, I'll say the circumstances for this are just weird. Like, Dante was planning on playing with his, I think it was 5 college teammates, all from Villanova.
Yeah.
And Randall was not expecting to be traded. So I do think there is some on their side, like wanting to prove, wanting to be like, you guys got rid of the good person. That being said, though, they've been through trades. Dante's been traded before. He's been on 4 different teams, I think. Mm-hmm. I mean, Randall's been on 3 different teams, or 4 different teams with the Wolves now. My guess is there'll be a little bit more business as usual. Cat, I think it might affect a little bit. We might have one of those games where Cat's trying to prove something, which as Minnesota fans, we know that's either going to be Cat scores 60 and they lose, or he has like 15 turnovers. There's not really an in-between with him. So
I like Nicole's comment here. Julius Randle will get booed at the Target Center before Cat's going to get booed at it. Well, I mean, the way things are trending right now, Nicole, I think you might be onto something for sure. What else is going on around the league here? Last 60 seconds or so. Thunder have won 5 straight. I think I saw Clippers 3-game losing streak. What else is going on? When you kind of scout the rest of the landscape in the NBA.
Giannis is back. I mean, holy cow, has he been playing out of his mind on every side of the ball with, I mean, Chris Middleton isn't the same. Dame isn't the same player he was. Brook Lopez looks like he's taking a step back. And Giannis is just, I mean, Jokic is incredible and deserves another MVP, but Giannis is going to give him a run for his money this year. He has been unreal. If people haven't checked out a Bucks game, which granted, Wisconsin, Minnesota, I get it, but check out a Bucks game, and they're in the midseason tournament final. So good opportunity to watch them play the Thunder on national TV.
Love it. Great stuff. As always, Wolves win 2 in a row. Final score tonight versus the Spurs, 106-92. Ant with 26. Again, Na was fantastic. Wolves moved to 14-11 on the year. Hey, as always, huge shout out to all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat, venting with us from game to game, maybe celebrating with us from game to game as well. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Go follow all of Andrew's work on X too, by the way, at ADukeMN, plus all the work he's always ripping up over at zonecoveragemn.com as well. Wolves Knicks Thursday night, 8:30 tip-off. Catch you right here, same time, same place. Until then, signing out.